the path that softens your steps. The path did not appear all at once. It revealed itself slowly, patiently, as if it had been there long before you arrived and felt no need to hurry now. At first, it was only a subtle difference in the forest floor. The earth between the trees looked calmer there, smoother, less disturbed by roots and stones, as though the ground itself had learned over a very long time how to receive footsteps without holding on to them. The air was cool and steady as you breathed in, not cold, not sharp, just cool enough to feel clean, as if it had been waiting quietly among the trees to be noticed. With every slow inhale, you sensed the scent of moss and damp bark, of fallen leaves resting where they had landed, of soil that had not been turned or hurried for a very long time. Above you, the forest canopy leaned inward, branches crossing one another in wide, unbroken arcs. They filtered the moonlight gently, allowing only thin ribbons of silver to pass through. The light did not flood the forest. It settled instead, soft and careful, touching the path just enough to make it visible. There was no sign to announce where the path began, no gate, no marker, no threshold to cross. It simply existed, as if it trusted that those who needed it would find it without being told. You stood still for a moment listening. The forest was not silent. It was breathing. A slow, patient rhythm moved through the trunks and branches, through the leaves resting above you, through the darker spaces between them. The sound was subtle, almost below the level of attention, yet steady enough to feel. The wind moved carefully here, not rushing, not pushing. It threaded its way between the trees, like a visitor who understood that everything around it was resting. It brushed lightly against your sleeves, your hair, your face, then moved on, carrying nothing away, leaving nothing behind. Somewhere in the distance, a single night bird called once. The sound did not echo. It did not demand a response. It simply belonged to the moment, and then returned to quiet. You took your first step onto the path. Your foot touched the ground and made no sound, not because the forest was holding its breath, but because the path itself seemed to soften as you placed your weight upon it. The leaves did not crunch. The soil did not shift. Your step settled gently, as though the earth had learned how to receive without resistance. You paused again, surprised by the ease of it. With the next step, your movement felt lighter, not because you tried to move quietly, but because the path seemed to remember how to carry footsteps without effort. Each step followed the last, with a calm, unbroken rhythm. There was no need to look ahead or behind. The path did not ask where you were going. It did not measure progress. It did not count how far you had come. It only asked that you remain. The trees stood around you like quiet witnesses, not watching, not judging, simply present. Their roots reached deep into the earth, holding patiently, teaching the forest how to remain steady through seasons that passed unseen. As you continued forward, you became aware of your breathing again, slow, even, unforced. Each breath seemed to match the gentle rhythm of the forest, as though your body had begun to remember a pace it once knew. With every step, something inside your chest loosened. Small tension released, then another, not all at once, not dramatically, just enough to notice. The path curved ahead, disappearing into deeper shadow, inviting without pulling. There was no urgency in its shape, no sharp turns, no sudden changes, only continuity. You realized quietly that nothing here was asking you to become different. Nothing was demanding effort or understanding. The forest offered no instructions. It simply allowed you to walk, allowed you to slow, allowed your thoughts to soften in the same way the ground softened beneath your feet. The night held its calm. The forest accepted your presence, and the path, gentle and unassuming, began its work, not of leading you somewhere else, but of reminding you how it feels to move without weight. As you continued along the path, the forest seemed to adjust itself around you, not visibly, not suddenly, but in the quiet way things do when they have decided to make room. The trees did not move closer, yet the space between them felt more intentional, like a corridor shaped by patience rather than design. Their trunks rose straight and calm, their bark cool and textured beneath the moonlight, marked by time, not by struggle. The path beneath your feet grew even softer. Each step felt cushioned, as if the ground remembered every footfall and had learned, over countless nights, how to welcome them all. You noticed that your shoulders had lowered, that your jaw was no longer tight, that your hands rested easily at your sides, no longer holding on to anything unseen. The wind returned, a little more present now, though still gentle. It moved through the leaves above you, creating a slow, continuous whisper. Not words, never words, just sound enough to remind you that you are not alone here. Leaves brushed against one another softly, like fabric settling. The sound flowed evenly, without pause or urgency, and you realized it could continue like this for hours without changing its tone. Somewhere close by, something small moved through the undergrowth, not hurried, not startled, just passing through its own quiet life. You felt no need to turn your head. Nothing here required your attention to be safe. The forest trusted itself. As you walked, your thoughts began to change, not in content, but in weight. They arrived more slowly now, stayed briefly, then drifted away without asking to be followed. You did not push them aside. You did not hold on to them. They passed through you the same way the wind passed through the trees. The path curved gently again, and with that curve came a deeper stillness. The moonlight dimmed slightly, filtered by thicker branches above. Shadows layered themselves across the ground, soft and indistinct, never sharp. You became aware of the sound of your breathing once more, not loud, not controlled, simply present. Each breath settled into your body and left without effort. The forest responded. With every exhale, the wind seemed to ease. With every inhale, the leaves rustled just a little less. It felt as though the world around you was listening and adjusting, matching your pace out of quiet courtesy. You realized then that the path was not only softening your steps, it was softening your sense of time. Moments stretched gently, like light through mist. There was no clear separation between one step and the next, no urgency to arrive anywhere else. The forest did not offer meaning, it offered rhythm, and in that rhythm, something deeper settled within you, a sense that nothing needed to be fixed tonight, nothing needed to be solved, that simply moving forward, slowly and attentively, was enough. The path continued ahead, steady and kind, and with each step you felt lighter still, not because anything had been taken from you, but because you were no longer carrying what the forest had never asked for. The forest grew deeper, not darker, but quieter. The trees stood closer together now, their branches weaving above the path in long, patient lines. Moonlight still found its way through, but only in fragments, soft shapes of silver that moved gently as the leaves shifted. Your steps continued without sound. The path seemed to anticipate each one, receiving your weight before it fully arrived. It was as if the ground itself was walking with you, sharing the effort, lightening the journey. You became aware of another presence, not sudden, not startling, just there. It did not announce itself. It did not move ahead or behind. It remained beside you in the same way the night remained, constant, quiet, and unassuming. You did not see anything clearly. There was no shape to name, no form that demanded attention, only the subtle sense that you were no longer the only one moving through the forest. The feeling brought no fear, no curiosity even, only calm. The path did not change. The forest did not react. Everything remained as it was, as though this presence had always belonged here. A gentle warmth spread through your chest, slow and steady, not excitement, not comfort in the usual sense, more like reassurance, the kind that does not speak but stays. The wind softened further, barely stirring the leaves now. Its sound became a low, continuous hush, like breath resting between thoughts. From time to time, a branch creaked quietly as it settled, a natural sound of wood remembering its place. Somewhere far off, another night bird called, then answered itself into silence. The presence beside you did not move closer. It did not touch. It did not lead. It simply matched your pace. With each step, you felt a growing awareness that you were not required to understand anything here. The forest did not offer explanations. The path did not ask for reflection. Meaning was not being handed to you. It was being allowed to arrive on its own. Your thoughts slowed further. When they appeared, they were softer, less defined. They no longer carried urgency or weight. They felt like passing clouds moving through a wide night sky. The path curved again, and the forest opened slightly. The trees leaned back, creating a small clearing where the moonlight pooled gently on the ground. You paused without deciding to. The presence beside you paused as well. In that stillness, you felt something settle deeply within you. A sense of being kept, not watched over, not guided, kept, as though the forest itself had made room for you and would continue to hold that space, whether you moved or rested. The moment did not linger. It did not need to. When you stepped forward again, the path accepted your movement without question. The presence moved with you, quiet and constant, and together you continued along the softened ground, carried not by effort, but by the simple agreement to walk gently through what was given. The forest began to change again, not in shape, but in tone. The air grew warmer only slightly, as if the night itself had drawn closer to listen more carefully. The path widened just enough to invite a slower pace, not to stop you, but to remove any reason to hurry. Your steps remained silent, yet now they felt less like movement and more like settling. Each footfall rested fully before the next one arrived, as though the ground encouraged completeness in even the smallest action. The presence beside you remained, steady and unintrusive. It did not ask anything of you. It did not change direction. It simply stayed, as constant as the path itself. The trees around you lowered their branches, not as an obstacle, but as a gentle enclosure. Leaves brushed the air above you, moving slowly with the breath of the forest. Their sound was soft and continuous, a quiet rhythm that asked nothing in return. Somewhere nearby, water moved, not a river, not a stream, just the slow, almost unnoticeable sound of moisture settling into earth, of life continuing its quiet felt your breathing deepen naturally. No effort guided it. Your body seemed to remember how to rest within motion. The path curved again, and ahead of you the forest opened into a wide, calm hollow. The ground there was smooth and dark, covered with fine needles and leaves that had rested undisturbed for a long time. Without choosing to, you slowed even more. The presence beside you did the same. Here the moonlight reached the ground fully. It lay across the hollow like a soft blanket, cool and steady, neither bright nor dim. You noticed that your thoughts had nearly faded, not gone, just resting at the edges of awareness, content to remain where they were. The path did not end here, but it did pause, not in distance, but in intention. This place did not ask you to continue. It did not ask you to stop. It simply allowed both. You realized then that the path was not leading you somewhere else to become something new. It was teaching you how to remain without tension, how to exist without effort. The forest did not offer promises. It offered steadiness. The presence beside you felt closer now, not in space, but in understanding. It carried the quiet assurance that you were not required to hold everything alone. That rest was not something earned, but something given. You stood there for a while, breathing in the cool, gentle air, feeling the softened ground beneath your feet, the patient night around you, and the calm certainty that nothing was being asked of you in this moment. When you were ready, the path would continue, and when you were not, it would remain exactly as it was, waiting, steady and kind. The path wound onward, but the journey no longer felt like moving. Each step was not a transition from one place to another, but a quiet unfolding of presence within yourself. The trees leaned gently toward you, their leaves brushing softly in the night wind, a rhythm as natural as your own breathing. It was subtle, so subtle you almost didn't notice. Yet it filled the space with a sense of ease, as if the forest itself had drawn a circle around you to remind you belong here simply by being. The ground beneath your feet had become astonishingly soft. It yielded to your weight like a memory remembered just right. Your steps left no mark, no sound, no imprint, as though the forest understood that nothing needed to be carried forward. Even your thoughts, as they rose and fell like distant clouds, felt lighter, as though the path itself absorbed their weight without judgment. Somewhere far above, a single owl called once, its voice hollow yet gentle. It was not a warning nor a signal, but a punctuation in the quiet narrative of the night. You listened, and in listening, realized that even a single sound could be soft and caring and still belong entirely to peace. The presence that had been walking beside you did not move closer, it did not fade. It simply existed in quiet attunement. You felt less alone, not because of company, but because of shared stillness. The path curved again, winding through a slight rise in the earth. Moonlight traced the contours of each branch, glinting off bark, dancing faintly on the soft needles of the forest floor. Shadows played lightly, without shape, without form, but with an almost tangible calm. And then it occurred to you, slowly, gently, without urgency, that the path was teaching more than patience. It was teaching trust, not trust in something distant, but trust in this moment, trust in stillness, trust in the quiet work of nature, and in the soft unfolding of your own mind. Every movement had its own meaning, but not the kind of meaning that demanded understanding. The forest and the path and the night itself were reminding you that rhythm and presence were enough, that simply walking softly, carefully, intentionally was a form of grace. The wind stirred again, barely more than a whisper, rustling leaves in a gentle melody. Somewhere far below, the sound of settling soil or hidden water added a faint, grounding vibration. It reminded you of the continuity of life, how things move even when we are still, how patience is its own quiet magic. You took another slow step and another, each one deeper, not in distance, but in awareness. With each movement, you realize that everything carried forward is not always visible, and that the softest impressions are often the most enduring. The path curved once more, and as it did, the realization became clearer. Softness is strength. Gentleness is power. Presence itself is a quiet kind of love, one that does not demand recognition, one that does not call attention, but simply supports and holds. And in that moment, you understood fully why the path softens your steps. It is not for others, not for accolades, not for accomplishment. It is for the walker, for the one who chooses to notice, to breathe, to move with patience and care, to allow the world to pass through you without weight, without haste. And so you continued, not rushing, not seeking, simply walking. And in walking, you were learning the most profound lesson of all, that life can be gentle, and that gentleness carries us further than force ever could. The path curved one final time, leading you into a small, open glade, bathed in soft, silver moonlight. Here, the trees leaned back slightly, their branches creating a gentle canopy that let the night sky peer through, stars twinkling faintly, not to dazzle, but to accompany your quiet presence. The forest around you exhaled, and you felt the weight of all your steps softening completely. Every motion, every thought, every little tension you had carried slid away, absorbed by the patient earth beneath your feet. The wind here was barely more than a whisper, moving in slow ribbons through the leaves, carrying the faint scent of moss and damp bark. Somewhere in the distance, water trickled softly, a tiny stream or hidden spring, adding its subtle voice to the calm symphony of night. The path beneath your feet no longer felt like ground. It felt like a gentle companion, moving with you, bearing your presence and guiding your attention inward. You sat down on the soft forest floor. No urgency brought you here. No destination awaited. Only the quiet truth that you were allowed to rest, to breathe, to exist fully in this space and in this moment. The presence that had accompanied you remained, gentle and steady, never speaking, never intruding, simply attuning itself to your heartbeat, to your breath, to the rhythm of your thoughts, slowing. You became aware of the subtle sounds around you, the wind in the trees, the soft rustle of leaves, the faint echo of distant water, the occasional, almost imperceptible creak of a branch. They were not interruptions. They were part of the path, a music composed by the forest itself, measured in patience, carried in silence, felt more than heard. You let your thoughts drift, not forced, not directed. They came and went like clouds across a quiet sky, allowing your mind to soften in the same rhythm. A deep, steady calm settled into your chest. It moved slowly through your shoulders, through your arms, into your legs, into your fingertips and toes. Every part of you rested in the rhythm of the night, in the quiet pulse of the path that has softened your steps and carried you here, gently, unhurried, and kind. You realized as the night continued its slow movement that this path is always available, not outside, perhaps, but inside yourself. The lessons of patience, of gentleness, of trust, of presence would remain with you even when the forest faded from view. And as your eyelids grew heavier, as your breathing slowed even more, you let yourself sink fully into the warmth of the forest's acceptance. The path had carried you far, not in distance, but in depth. And now you rested. The wind whispered one last time, through the trees, through the leaves, through your thoughts, and as it did, you closed your eyes completely. And the forest held you, the path held you, the night held you, all of it soft, steady, kind, and in that infinite quiet, you drifted into sleep, slowly, gently, softly, carried by the world itself, and by the soft magic of walking without weight.